Hello and welcome back into my 17th Visual Basic and Excel tutorial. This is just going to be continuing the last tutorial where I was copying things onto a master sheet from a different sheet. So I'm just going to quickly go back over the code again because I think I did it quite quickly. So we declared master as a workbook variable, meaning a variable that takes a workbook object and puts it into the variable, and then we set the variable equal to a workbook which we opened up at the same time and declared the file path as the first argument that open takes, and this opens up the workbook. And then this here is a loop where it starts off in 2, checks row 2 to see if it's equal to nothing, and if it is, then it will stop because it's do until. So as soon as it gets to one that's nothing, it will stop, and while it's not nothing, it will keep on checking down and keep going up one. And then this loop is going through the workbook that we're in, doing the same thing, finding it until it's doing nothing, and then for each row it's copying onto the master sheet the value of the rows from the template. Now what I'm going to do now is create a new macro. I'm going to put it in a separate module, so new module, and I'm going to have this as save workbooks. And what this is going to do, this is a really handy trick, it's going to go through this list of people here, well, list of work names. I don't know why I called it people, probably because names over here, and it's going to take these and save the workbook as each of these names in turn. It's a bit of a crude way of doing it, but it's effective, so I'm going to show you this now. So first of all we need a counter, so counter equals, we want 1 because we're starting off on row 1, and then we want do until this workbook dot sheets cells counter, comma, and we're on row 6, so we want column 6 even, so column 6 dot value equals nothing, and we want counter equals counter plus 1 and loop. And then what do we want to do in each loop? Well, what I want to do is use another property of the workbook object. This time I'm going to use this workbook, which declares the workbook that the macro is contained in, and I want to put dot save as. It's going to save it, so we need a file name, and what I want the file name to be is whatever is in each of these cells. So if I go back into here, first of all we're going to need to take the value from each of those cells. So that's this value here, so get rid of that, and we want to assign that to a variable, so sheet name, book name, it's not sheet, it's book, equals, and we'll make book name a string, book name as string. And you probably gathered by now that you don't need to declare integer variables, what type they are, but I'm going to do it anyway. So dim counter as integer. I just find it a little bit neater, you know what variables are contained with what, and it's just a habit I've picked up from Java. But so save as, and then we want, notice when you go to the parentheses, it comes with the arguments. And again, we've got the first one as file name, so we need the path that we want to save it in, so we can get that from our other module. We've got the start of the path, so take that and put that in there. So that's the file path of where it's in, and it's going to save it in here. So we want to put the file name, so end that section of string and concatenate it with book name, and then close parentheses. We also we want to save it as a .xls, so put .xls as a string at the end. And then this should work now, so if I run this, close the master off because we don't need that. Right, so if I run this now, it's F8, save workbooks, run. Notice how I pointed with my finger, obviously that's not really going to show you, but this here is saving it each time. We go into here, we've then got new copies of the workbook. This is really handy, and the thing this whole thing is leading up for is this is a really good way, a good alternative way to shared workbooks. Because I personally find shared workbooks are really awkward. Everyone's all in them at once, they keep having clashes with each other, whereas this, everyone can do it at the same time. Like, everyone can have their own sheet, you can have their own name, and it just takes the value of the things and puts them across. And I'm not really sure why it's deleted everything, but yeah, that's strange. Just put it into book 5, but it's taken a half template. I don't know, I'll probably figure that out some other time. But it would have been when I submitted it to master, but that's okay. But that's it really. Just remember, very handy way of doing it. So if we go into book 3 and we put a couple of names in and an age, click submit, gets rid of it. Did you notice the master popping up then? It means my computer was running a bit slower. We go into the 4th person's one, we can put a different one in, submit, and then say the other person number 2's in one, and we put that in, we'll click submit. It just means everyone can all submit all into the master at once, which is really useful. And that's it for this tutorial. Sorry, I just went on a little bit there at the end, and I hope you'll be listening to the next tutorial, which will be going into user forms.